Hey, so first I wanted to say thanks for coming out to another one pack event for Madison College Athletics. This is just another event we're doing this year. I think this is probably the final one of the academic year. I know for baseball and softball, I got some type of awareness month coming up soon for Asian American Pacific Islanders month in May. So we got to identify a baseball and softball game to do that. But today I wanted to introduce somebody to you. I've been knowing this guy for probably what 30 years. 30 years. We grew up together, played basketball against each other in CYO. His dad was one of my basketball coaches. Um, he's going to sit here and talk to you guys about networking and being specifically about student athletes and networking. Um, and he asked me to say, if you guys have any questions while he's doing his presentation, to make sure you raise your hand so he can ask the questions and he can try to answer them the best he can while in session or whatnot while he's doing the presentation. So without further ado, I got my guy James Grugan to come up here and talk to you guys about networking. So a round of applause.
Thanks, Jamal. And man, this is beautiful. This is one heck of a turnout. Sorry. There we go. Better? All right, let's try that again. Jamal, thank you. And this is beautiful, man. This is a heck of a turnout. So thank all you guys for and ladies for coming out. Like Jamal said, I want to talk to you about the navigating the job market and that whole process. But first, let me just tell you a little bit kind of about myself and how I got here. So I worked in the corporate world for 25 years. I spent my whole career with one company, and because I was there so long, another teammate of Jamal's was a local college basketball coach, and during that time. He would often ask me, he'd be like, "Yo, Grug, I got this kid graduating, and he doesn't really have anything lined up. Can you help him out?" And I was able to do that often, pretty frequently. I was able to help this, his players out and get them jobs. And it was a very high turnover position. And what I found was that the student athletes that I was bringing in far exceeded the typical retention rate for this role. So I started to take note of that. And then I moved into a staffing role myself and started searching student athletes when I would hire them for that reason. And again, they blew the retention rates out of the water. So I started looking at the leadership team at our company, and I found that it's not unique to that company, but they're was it 90% of Fortune 500 company CEOs are former student athletes. That number for female executives is even higher. So it was no coincidence that student athletes made for really high achieving employees. So I started looking in the staffing industry and found that almost every profession that you can think of, whether it's marketing, engineering, sales, executive level, there are staffing industries that focus just on that specific profession. But there wasn't anything geared towards the student athlete. So I thought that was really a void that needed to be filled and a service that I could provide. So I left my company of 25 years and started this staffing agency, which essentially is dedicated to helping student athletes transition from playing into the corporate world. So what I want to talk about to you today is what some of those skills are that you're acquiring and how to take those skills and navigate them throughout the job market. So a lot of times because your schedule's so busy, you may not have the time for like a traditional internship. What I'm here to tell you is that your student athlete experience is your internship. And if you can convey that properly to a hiring manager, you can let them see and realize that not only is it on par with a traditional with a traditional internship, it may even supersede that. So there's a few skills that I talk about that are the six kind of primary skill sets that are going to be transferable from your athletic careers to the corporate world. And those six skills that we got them up here are your work ethic, your time management, your teamwork, communication skills, motivation, and resiliency. Now, within each one of those, you're going to be able to break that down into kind of little subsets. And I assure you, most of those outside of teamwork probably um, don't sound really much like sports terms, right? Or something that you think of often that you're can translate from what you're doing into the corporate world. So we're going to go over that a little bit. Let's start with your work ethic. So I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I'm going to tell you all, every one of you in here, just by being in this room, just by doing what you're doing right now, you're special. You're in an elite group. 7% of high school athletes go on to play collegiate sports. So you're in a very, very top percentile, which makes you special. You don't achieve that level of success without an extreme work ethic. All right. And the way that you can translate that into the corporate world is the things that you do to separate yourself. And we're going to talk about separating yourself a lot because what you do separates yourself. And I'm going to give you some more things that you can do to separate yourself in the job market. But things like putting in the extra hours, the extra lifts, getting up extra shots, extra reps, that's going to lead to in the corporate world. And again, a lot of these are going to be revolved around entry level roles, but you're really not going to know what to do in your first role. So that same work ethic that's instilled in you is going to motivate you to learn more about the role, whether it's on your own or taking the training seriously and things like that. Another part of that is just showing up, right? It's an innately in you to be available, right? The best ability is availability. You'd be amazed at what little excuse it takes for somebody to just call out of work. Like they're not used to just being relied on and showing up. Showing up is a huge separator, and that's just something that you do. Time management. If you look at most job descriptions for like the soft skills that are going to be required, these are going to be on many of them, and time management is going to be right at the top of the list. So what you're doing as a student athlete, essentially you have two full-time jobs, right? You have your academics that you need to take care of, and not only do you need to take care of the academic side, but you have to do it at a higher standard than a typical student to maintain your playing eligibility, right? So that's another separating factor. And then you also have your commitment to your team. And in the corporate world, again, so you're used to kind of compartmentalizing things, being able to handle multiple tasks at a time. And when we talk about the corporate world, again, it's going to be a new role. So you're going to have to learn the role. You're going to have to undergo training. You're going to maybe be put on a special project, all while having to do your daily tasks. And being able to balance many things, being able to juggle many things is something that you're used to doing, and it's a value add to your employer. Teamwork, like I talked about, that's one that may seem just like a sports term, probably the most of all those on there. I can assure you, in almost any position that you get, nobody's just going to stick you in a corner or in a cubicle and say, go work by yourself. You're going to have to work within some type of team environment, cross-departmentally with other departments in the organization. You're going to have to be a part of a team. When I was in a leadership position, you would hear people say from time to time, and it was probably my biggest pet peeve, something to the effect like, that's not my job. Well, in your world, there's no such thing as that's not my job, right? If we're not collectively working towards the goal doesn't get achieved. So that's an extremely transferable skill. You often hear in the corporate world, companies talk about company culture. In your environment, it's team culture. And not only are you buying into that team culture, but you're helping to build and cultivate it, right? You're holding your teammates accountable, which is also a leadership component to it as well. And an organization is going to rely on you to be able to build and promote that company culture. And that's something that you're used to doing. Communication skills is another one that's a big one. And a part of that is being confident. If you're confident in what you're speaking to, you're going to be able to speak to it effectively. And preparation breeds confidence. Almost everything that you do, you're going to do it in a manner that you're not just going to attack anything without being fully prepared for it. And that's going to allow you to more effectively communicate throughout your professional career. Another component that's preparing you for that is a lot of people are kind of intimidated by having conversations with superiors or like a supervisor or somebody of that nature. You should be having those conversations frequently, whether it's with a coach about playing time or your role on the team, or having to have conversations with professors about missing class because you're traveling for a sport or whatever the case may be. You're used to having those difficult conversations with somebody who's above you or in a superior position. That's something that can serve you well also. Motivation. Companies want to hire people that they know are going to be there long term. Somebody who's looking to achieve upward mobility and growth within that company. And the way that you do that is through being motivated, through setting goals. Most of you, probably as early as I would say middle school, started setting goals for yourself, right? Might have looked like something like in 7th grade, I want to play in high school. And then you get to high school, you're a freshman. I want to play varsity as a freshman. Or, then I want to start. I want to be a captain. I want to play in college. And then that process starts all over again. You get here and it starts over. I want to start. I want to be all conference. I want to lead the team in scoring. I want to lead the team in ERA, RBIs, whatever it is, you're setting goals. That doesn't need to end just because your playing career ends. All right. You just take that motivation and that drive and you focus it on something else. And then resiliency. I talked earlier about those positions being high turnover. A big reason for that is in the entry level positions, they're just not used to 22, 23-year-olds coming out of college aren't used to handling the type of adversity. I can bet almost everyone in here has dealt with some type of adversity. For my baseball and softball players, I mean, your sport's predicated on that. So is golf, right? But outside of those sports, whether it was an injury, a setback, your jumper's not falling, you had a rough day, whatever it is, you're used to overcoming some type of adversity. And I know you overcame it because you're still here. You're still here. So if you weren't able to persevere through that, you wouldn't still be here. And trust me, that's transferable. It's very, very expensive for companies to have to continue to rehire employees. So if they know that they're getting somebody who's going to stick it out and going to be there long term, that's an extreme value add for them. So we talked now about some of the skill sets that you've acquired. Now that we know what we're good at, now we're going to talk about how we parlay that into corporate success. And again, that's kind of just a template, right? It's going to be a little different for everybody. You're going to have strengths in some of them. You're going to be a little bit more stronger than others, but it gives you a guide on kind of how to start to tell your story. So now that we know what we're good at and we're starting to look at the interview phase of this, how do we prepare for that? Well, the first thing is career fairs. Most schools, and I was talking to Jamal, I think you have usually 2 a year, right? One in the spring, one in the fall. Make sure you're attending your career fairs. Prior to attending them, we talk about research and preparation. Those two go in hand. Don't just walk into it blindly, right? Like I said, you wouldn't just walk into a game without a practice or a game plan. Go to a career fair, have a plan. They're going to list what companies are going to be there. Take a look at that list. Find a few, maybe 5 that align with your major, what you want to do, maybe your core values, whatever reason you find to you align yourself with. Identify those companies and then seek them out at the career fair. And what that's going to do as far as preparing you for the interview phase, each one of those transactions is with somebody in staffing, whether it's someone in talent acquisition or a hiring manager. So each one of those conversations that you're going to have in that environment are kind of like little mini interviews. So if you have 2 career fairs a year and you do that over 3 or 4 years, right? That's a lot. That's 30, 40 interviews that you have under your belt. So now that the time comes for a real interview, you should be much more relaxed, much more comfortable in that environment. It's also a great way to start building out your network because, again, these people that you're having these conversations with, these are companies that you've researched that you want to work at. You now have a relationship with somebody in a position that can assist you and further your career. So you start to build out your network a little bit through attending career fairs. So again, now we talk about what to do in the actual interview and how to increase your chances of getting that interview. The first thing we want to do is, obviously, we have to apply for jobs, right? Before we can get an interview, we have to apply for a job. I live on LinkedIn, so when I talk about applying for the jobs, that's typically what I'm going to refer to. Who here has a LinkedIn profile? All right, that's not many. So we're going to give you guys a little bit of homework. All right, I'm going to check in with Jamal to see who does their homework. For you that raised your hand, I want you to connect with me on LinkedIn. That's your homework. Also, connect with any professors that you have a strong relationship with in your major that would be a good resource for you, and your university and your university's alumni network. Alumni is critical. They want to give back to the same community that helped them, so connect with those. For those of you that did not raise your hand and are not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn, and your homework is to get on there and connect with me. If you're not on it, if you don't even know what it is, I'll just give you, it's basically a social media site for professionals. Think like Facebook, but geared more towards professionals. When you apply for a job on LinkedIn, about 40 to 50% of the time, it'll tell you who posted that position, okay? You want to send that person an email after you apply for the job. Hey, James, this is so-and-so. I applied for your position. I read the job description. I think it really aligns with my skills. I'd love the opportunity to discuss with you further. Brief, empathetic of their time, shows an interest in the position. If I post a job on a Sunday afternoon, which is typically when I like to post my jobs, because everybody hates going to work on Monday, so that's when they're looking for jobs. I'll come in to the office on Monday morning, and if it's a high profile position, I may have over 100 applicants. So let's call it 100. On average, I'll get that email that I just described about from 2 to 4 people. Talk about separating yourselves. You just set by sending that message, that little engagement that took 35 seconds, you separated yourself 98% of the people that apply for that job. That's a huge, huge advantage. Your resume, when you apply for a job, is going to get looked at on average for 7 seconds. They're just scrolling right through it. They're not going to look at it very long. You get their attention, separated yourself from 100 other people, they're going to look at it. It's going to significantly increase your chances of one, getting a thorough review of your resume, and two, possibly a phone screen. That brief little engagement goes a long way. We're going to talk about networking as well, because most jobs are filled through internal referrals and things like that. So you really need to establish a strong network. That's why I'm imploring you all to get on LinkedIn. But before we talk about networking, because there's two kinds of networking. There's like your in-person networking, which is kind of what we're doing now and what we're going to do a little bit later on following this. And then there's social media networking, which is LinkedIn. But I want to stop for a second and get off topic and just talk about social media in general. Let's do a little survey. Again, LinkedIn, we only saw a handful of hand raised. Who's on TikTok? Instagram? All right, all the hands go up now, right? All right. 95% of employers have admitted to looking at your social media at some point throughout the interview process. Think about that, 95%. Call it 100, you might as well, right? Every job you're applying for, they're going to look at your social media. So it needs to be pristine, okay? It needs to be an accurate reflection of the image that you want to portray. No excessive partying, no red Solo cups, no foul language, no polarizing political views, no profanity, none of that. It will eliminate you from jobs. It will cost you a job if you already get it. You see the stories it happens all the time. So make sure that your social media is pristine now and moving forward. Now, that's my little time rant on social media responsibility. Now back to the scheduled program. There's two kinds of networking. There's in-person networking, and there's the online networking through LinkedIn. Your in-person networking, because you're an athlete, I get it. It's a big part of your identity. So a lot of your conversations you're having like outside of school, your social circle, family, friends, things like that, social gatherings are going to involve sports, which is great. But try and, as they say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Expand who you're talking to and expand the topics that you're talking about. All right. Like, so for me, I work in staffing. So in almost every conversation I have with somebody, like for the first time that I'm just meeting, or having like a real detailed conversation, one of the first questions I'm going, what do you do for a living? It's going to be one of the first questions I asked. And again, people want to help you. They really do, but they can't do it if they don't know. So let people know what your major is. Let them know what you want to do. And that can go a long way. You may be talking to somebody who is the VP of marketing at their firm, and you're a marketing major. They would love to give you an internship or a job, but if they don't know you're a marketing major and you don't know that they're a VP of marketing, that they don't have the ability to help you. So have those conversations, expand who you're talking to, and expand what you're talking about. And then the other part of it is through social media, through LinkedIn, right? If you start this now, and this is the part where a lot of you guys and girls are probably rolling your eyes right now, like, what's this dude even talking about? I don't need a job for another 3 or 4 years. This doesn't really apply to me. It certainly does. And this part more than anything, the sooner you start building out your network, the bigger your network gets, the more people you're going to have the opportunity to tap in to help you out when the time comes, right? So if you start building out your network now, start getting on LinkedIn now, start building out those connections, the more opportunities you're going to create for yourself down the line. That's something you always, oh, this guy got lucky. His uncle got him that job, or he just randomly saw some dude on LinkedIn that gave him that job. That's not luck, right? Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. You take those steps, that creates your own luck. All right. So be intentional with your conversations, be intentional with your social media engagements, and build out your network. Again, there's preparation. So I'm just briefly going to touch on your resume. These are some of the things that we're going to do just prior to the interview. Your resume, when you're writing your resume, it should be in a nice, clean order. Don't make, again, I said it's only going to get looked at for 7 seconds. Don't make them go looking for what they want to find. It's an entry-level role. So your education should be up top. Your major should be up top. Let them find where you went to school, what your major is. Don't make them go looking for it. A lot of your roles are going to be entry level. So, you may not have a whole lot to say about it. There's 2 things that I like to say that can kind of help you with that. One, don't be afraid to borrow from other people. We're not all the smartest in the room, so somebody's probably said it better. Especially like on entry level roles, maybe in like the service industry or something like that. Throw it in Google or ChatGPT. Good resume bullet points for a server, and they'll spit something out, and you'll be like, "Damn, I did that." It's going to sound really good. Now, don't just copy it word for word. You can borrow it, but don't copy it word for word. And then the other thing is you want to kind of quantify what you've done. Again, well, a lot of kids now, you're doing like social, if you're a marketing major, you might run a small business's social media account. Right? Don't just say I ran their social media account. Quantify your accomplishments. It's going to show your direct impact on the organization. So tell them how many followers you created, how many views you created for their page. Not only is it going to, like I said, show your impact on the organization, but what it's going to do is now there's numbers on the page. Any numbers on that page? No, there's not. But if there was like a 95% in there or a 300 in there, it would jump right off the page, right? Again, if they're scrolling through your resume, give them a reason to stop. Draw their attention in. Numbers are going to do that. Quantify your accomplishments are going to do that. You have to research the company. If you're going on a job interview, it's imperative that you know what that company does. So I said earlier that I was at my previous company for 25 years. Has anybody ever heard of J.G. Wentworth? What do you know about J.G. Wentworth? Say, sing it. 7-7 cash now, right? Yeah. So almost every time I asked that question, and when I worked there for 25 years, people sang that song to me all day. I heard it in my sleep. It's funny in here, but in an interview, one of the first questions I asked, what do you know about us? And literally they could sing me a song. They could tell me my phone number, but they couldn't tell me what we did. So now I'm 30 seconds into an interview, and I already want to disqualify this guy because he sang me a song. Conversely, if he tells me you buy structured settlements, all right, now you got my attention. He tells me you give the person a lump sum of cash now at a discounted value. Now you really got my attention. You're 30 seconds into the interview, and you probably already have an offer. In my mind, I want to offer you a job because I know you took the time to do that research, and it took 5-10 minutes. Go on their website, check out their social media profiles, whatever you want to do the research, but just that 10-15 minutes can get you an offer. So you have to go into job interviews prepared. You have to research the company, know what they do. If you know who's interviewing you, research them. Look at their LinkedIn profile. Side note, don't be doing that with like exes and stuff like that, stalking them, because unlike on the other social media sites, it tells you who looks at your profile. So it's just a little side note for you. However, a boss or somebody interviewing you would want to see that because it shows interest. It shows you're doing your homework. And then have questions prepared. Almost every interview, they're going to end or close to the end. They're going to give you the opportunity to ask questions. There's two really good ones that I like that I can share with you. The first one is ask them what they like working at that company, what they like about working at that company. The reason I like this question is, again, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, right? And if somebody genuinely likes working there, if they're being authentic with their answer, that's going to come through. You're going to be able to read that and you're going to know that. If they don't really like working there, you're probably going to be able to read that as well, right? And maybe that's a red flag. Like, why is this person interviewing me doesn't even like working here? Why should I want to work here? Right, so that's a really good question to start to gauge something about that company and the company culture. Another really good one is to ask, what would be my goals, your goals for me over, call it the learning curve, the first 6 months in this role, and then out maybe the remainder of the rest of the first year. The reason that's a really strong question for an interview is, one, it shows that you're not afraid to have goals put upon you, right? In fact, you're actually welcoming it. What are my goals going to be? The second reason that that's a strong answer is, in order for them to answer that, they have to put you in that role out 1 year, right? So kind of psychologically, they've already given you the job. Could be a little separator, but down the line, if it's a tight one between you and another candidate, again, psychologically, they already gave you that job. That could create an edge that you need. I can give you some questions to ask, like I just provided. I can't predict exactly what they're going to ask you, but I can give you kind of some ideas. And here's just some of them that we want to talk about. We talked about your elevator pitch, right? The career fair, having those engagements. Be prepared to talk about yourself. Most times people probably tell you, especially like in athletics, right? You know, baseball players, and no bat flipping and, you know, those kind of things. You be humble. If there's ever a time to not be humble, to kind of toe the line between confidence and cocky, it's a job interview. That's when you want to, you know, chest up, chin out, talk about yourself. That's what you're there to do. Sell yourself. So be comfortable doing that. We talked about discussing your resume. I said to borrow things. I said to make some parts of it interchangeable. You can do that, but you can't just make it up. If it's on your resume, they're going to have, by this point, thoroughly reviewed your resume. They may even have it in front of them. You better be prepared to speak to it. If it's on your resume, you better have done it. You know, if you say you're proficient in Excel, be prepared to take an Excel proficiency test. I've seen it happen, right? So if it's on there, Make sure you can speak to it. Make sure you can do it. Some of the like icebreaker type questions, they don't really, they're not overly concerned with the answer itself. What they're concerned with is how you articulate that answer. Tell me a little bit about your accomplishments. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Those type of questions. Again, it's more about the answer, like your strengths. They know your strengths. You've had a phone screen. They have your resume. They might have stalked you on social media. They kind of know what your strengths are. Your weakness, again, it's not like that's not a trap question. What they want to know is how you're going to answer it. So, like for me, if somebody asked me that, it's my organizational skills. Not a very good strength of mine prior to starting my own business. But I wouldn't just say organizational skills and then leave it there and make them drag the rest out of me. How you really answer that, and what they want is they want you to like something to the effect of, my organizational skills were lacking, but now what I do to rectify that is every day when I wake up, I write out all my tasks for the day. And if I don't have tasks throughout certain times of the day, I give myself tasks. If I don't have like a call or an appointment, at 9 o'clock, I'm prospecting. At 10 o'clock, I'm following up with last week's emails. That's how you take your poor organizational skills and communicate it in a way that shows you were cognizant of it and perhaps even turned it into a strength. So those are the kinds of things that you're looking for. Don't be afraid to talk about your athletic accomplishments. Now, again, tell me an accomplishment you're proud of. If you won a conference championship, tell them that. Unless they went to your school, they probably don't care that you won the conference championship. What they're more concerned about is what you did to accomplish that goal. Me and my teammates came together. We held each other accountable. We put in extra work. We work collectively as a team. Those kind of things. How you articulate that answer and what you did to reach that goal is what they're more concerned with than the actual goal itself. At the end of almost every interview, one of the questions you're going to be asked is something along the lines of, why should we pick you for this position? Or what separates you from other candidates? This is a tremendous answer to that. And this is also something, if they don't ask it, you can interject it, which is, it'll really, again, back to the confidence and preparation, it's going to show that. Because they might not ask this question directly, but they'll say, do you have anything to add? And what you could just add, what separates you? And what separates you is that, like I said, only 7% of high school student athletes play at the collegiate level. And those last 4 years as a student athlete have been the most intense internship that you can possibly have. You increased your already strong work ethic. You mastered your time management. You've become an excellent teammate. You've learned how to make decisions under duress. You've failed. You've learned how to overcome adversity. But most importantly, you learned what it takes to succeed, to have success. And these are skills that you didn't just learn in a classroom or write on a resume. These are skills that you applied in real life practical situations that you're ready to bring to that organization. Now, you put that together, that's a pretty compelling answer to that question. And it's going to be one of the last things that they hear you say. So it's going to leave you with a really strong impression in their minds. We're almost done. And now we're talking about the interview process being done. So there's a few things that you need to do that'll show a high level of professionalism, again, on the way out, that's going to leave a strong impression. As soon as you get back from an interview, whether you're going home, to a dorm, Starbucks to steal Wi-Fi, wherever you're going, get there and send them a thank you email. Thank you for your time. I've really enjoyed learning more about your organization. I hope to hear from you soon. If there was something of particular interest in the interview that came up that you want to mention, oh yeah, we talked about this. I just read more about it. It's fascinating. Something along those lines. But keep it short and brief, empathetic of their time. But that shows a high level of professionalism. Some hiring managers will disqualify candidates for not sending a thank you email. Again, imperative. Check in with them. Oftentimes they're going to tell you, you should hear back from us in 5 to 7 days, 7 to 10 days, whatever the time frame is. If you reach that threshold, follow up. You're not bothering them. You're not a burden. It may be a test. They may want to see how aggressive you are, how much you want it, right? So you get to that 5th day, that 7th day. Hey, just checking in. You said we'd hear in 5 to 7 days. Want to let you know that I'm waiting. I'm extremely interested in this position. Can't wait to hear from you. This next one sucks, but it's a reality. I say, like, I want you to win every game that you play. I want you to bat 1,000, make every jumper you take, hit a hole in one if you're a golfer, whatever sport you're playing. I want you to do the best at it. But you're going to, we talked about adversity. You're going to lose. You're going to fail. You're not going to get every job that you apply for, that you interview. You're not going to get. All right. You're going to probably get an email. Hey, sorry, we went in another direction. Thanks for your time. We'll keep your information on file. Hope to hear from you soon. Something along those lines. That email sucks, but it's going to happen. And much like adversity, how you respond to it is going to be very telling. All right. It's the 24-hour rule. Most coaches have that, right? With your players or with your parents. You don't respond in 24 hours. You're not complaining about playing time in 24 hours. Your playing time, whatever it is. Give it some time. Sit on it, because you don't want to reply to this right away when it hurts and it stings, and you may say something you regret. After 24 hours and you've calmed down and now you've reached the level of professionalism, still thank them for their time. Let them know that, if things change or another position opens up, you'd love the opportunity to be considered or eligible for that position. That demonstrates an extremely high level of professionalism for someone your age and will really get their attention. I've seen examples where that's worked in many ways. The hire that they went with didn't work out. They're in extreme growth mode. The same position's available again in 3 months. They could have a former colleague who left that company and is now somewhere else, saw them post that, hey, I saw you post a staff accountant job last week. Did you fill it? Do you have any candidates that didn't work out? We're looking for the same position. Yeah, I have this gentleman, this woman who applied last week, extremely professional. We almost offered her, it didn't go her way for whatever reason, but I think they'd be a good fit for you. That's the stuff that could be said about you behind doors and rooms that you're not in because of that email. So that final thing, that rejection, that's how you can determine a negative into a positive. So up until this point, athletics have really been kind of your identity, but it doesn't have to define you. Like we talked about at the very beginning, it laid the foundation for who you are. It's allowed you to be great. Take those skills and go be great. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Mr. Grugan. I appreciate it. Hey, I just wanted to reach out and see if anybody had any questions off the top of the head before we close out. Any questions for Mr. Grugan here? Nobody? No questions at all? Oh, we got one right here, Zay.
What's that? That's a great question. Thank you. You gonna tell me if I'm authentic or not? No, I work for myself, so that's extremely liberating. But what I love about my job is the reason I started. Listen, I left the job that I was at for 25 years. It was really cushy. I was there a long time. I could have rode off into the sunset and been retiring in like 5 years. Now I'm building a company from the ground up. It's extremely gratifying to get somebody a job, especially their first job, to know that you had a say or some small part in launching their career. There's really nothing more gratifying than that. And to that point, I know somebody in here has a question, just embarrassed or don't want to answer it. That's fine. I'm here. You can email me. You can message me on LinkedIn. On whatever form of communication, my cell phone number is on my website. You could text me. You can call me. I just want to help people. I want to give you the tools and the knowledge to take the skill sets that you're acquiring and parlay that into a real opportunity. Don't be afraid to take advantage of it. That's literally what I'm here for. It's literally what I do for a living. It's what I enjoy. So, take advantage of it. Take advantage of it.
Any other questions? Got one back there from Coach Davenport. Then we'll go right here. Yep.
I do. Yes. It's kind of both. To be honest, not being hired / fired. They were hired and within a week, they were fired. And Jamal, we actually just laughed about this. We went to lunch earlier today. I guess there's not many Philadelphians in this room, but for the two of us, oh, my guy back here, another one, you can attest to this. So in most states, most cities, a state championship is the goal, right? Not in Philadelphia. Not in Philadelphia. The Pennsylvania State Championship's nice. A Philadelphia Catholic League championship is that's what you want. That's the bar. I won't say the name of the school. I won't say what sport, but they won the Philadelphia Catholic League championship last year. And the coach retired, rode off into the sunset. A month later or so, they did their due diligence. They hired a new coach. Some alumni didn't like that hire. They weren't happy with it. They thought their guy should have got that job. So they went to social media and they start digging. And it didn't take long. It didn't take long because the coach they hired didn't listen to my speech about cleaning up his social media. And they found some things. So this guy was an alumni, by the way, a dream job. Like when I'm telling you a Philadelphia Catholic League job is a dream job for guys like that, it's a dream job. He got hired on Wednesday and fired on Sunday for tweets that were 5 years old. So trust me, guys, that is real. It happens all the time. You don't believe me? Go Google, athlete loses scholarships over social media, employee fired over social media. It happens all the time. So that's a great question. Thank you. James Grugan. So to answer that, it's a good question. Thank you. My LinkedIn is the only one where it's my actual name is James Grugan. Every other social media, I also have 5-star hiring, a LinkedIn page. I have a 5-star hiring Instagram and a 5-star hiring Twitter page as well. You're welcome. And TikTok, but I'm not on there really enough.
Any other questions before I close it out for us? Coach back there? Yep.
I don't like it. Okay. Really good question. Really good question. And there's some conflicting thoughts on that. Like you said, old school, new school. Just in general, unless you're like a graphic designer or something like that, and that's part of telling your story. I don't like the flashy resumes, and here's why personally. I talked about getting 100 resumes and only looking at it for 7 seconds. If you have a resume and it's your standard form, like up top is going to be your name and your contact information. This is the format that I like. Then your education, then your work history. That's kind of a standard format. By the way, as you get a little more advanced in your career, you can switch that because now your work history is more prevalent and more important than the education, so you drop it to the bottom. But for you right now, it's that order. And the reason, Coach, that I like that order is if I'm looking at a resume, 100 of them for 5 to 7 seconds, don't make me go looking for what I want. So if everyone's following that format, I know where to look for where they graduated, what their major is, what their GPA is, those type of things. If you have your skills on a bar off to the side, your education off to a bar over here, I got to look all over the place. I don't want to do that. I got 100 other resumes to look at. Just don't make my job any harder. And that's just not me saying that. That's I'm speaking for hiring managers in general. we talked about giving yourselves advantages and separating yourselves. Make it easy on them. Don't make them look for what you're trying to tell them. I'm sorry, was there a second part to that I didn't address? Well, right. Yeah. I mean, I think no. For one, it's expensive. It's like $200 or something like that. Probably most college students don't have that. And with the, I think Canva is one that you probably all have access to. You can go on Canva and there's a bunch of different formats that you can use. I think you can use Chat GPT to you can put it in like a Word document and it'll format it for you there. So there's just a lot of tools and resources out there that you can utilize yourself. I don't personally think that that's necessary. Like I said earlier, I'd be more than happy to help anybody here with their resume if that was something they needed assistance with, at no cost. So I'm not saying that to promote business. And yeah, I'll help you with your resume. Give me $250. It's what I do every day. So I'd be more than happy to do that.
All right. Well, thanks. I want to everybody just can you help me give Mr. Grugan a round of applause? All right. So
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, thanks. Hey, so I got a couple takeaways outside of hearing my Philadelphia accent. I think I miss hearing it, so I appreciate hearing that right now. So thank you for that. And then I think it might have been closer to 40 years, that we've been knowing each other.
It's not 30.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
30,
undersold it there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, but a couple takeaways. He talked to you guys about like internship starts now. Within your athletic careers, it starts now. Being prepared, preparation, network, transferable skills, dealing with adversity, resilience. And I know we had Dawn Krim early in the school year, and she talked about some of the same things. And she actually a North Philly person, yeah. So she works at the UW Green Bay here. Um, but she shared some of the same thoughts on some of the things that Mr. Grugan talked about. And then the last thing I got, make sure they got another event in here coming up real soon. In the next 25 minutes, another event. So make sure you push your chairs in. I'm not asking you to leave just yet, but push your chairs in. We're going to take a picture of Mr. Grugan too. So I'm trying to get everybody up here to take a picture in a second. But push your chairs in. Then we're going to head over to the Wolfpack Den. I do have some appetizers. First come first serve type thing. If you gotta head out, you can head out. If you want to stop and grab some food and talk, you can do that. But what I want to do is challenge yourself. It's a networking event, mix and mingle. So I'm challenging you to meet somebody from another sports team that you don't already know. Find out what their major is. And when I say major, don't just say liberal arts. Let them know liberal arts, economics and pre-business, liberal arts, health or something like that. Let them know if you're in the interior design program or something, and then find out more about them and their career goals. Exchange contact information if you're comfortable with that, and then learn more about them. And like Mr. Grugan said, build your network and be more intentional. So that's some of the things I want you to think about when you go next door to the Wolfpack Den. I got a question over here that hopefully somebody else can answer for me. What's up?
No, absolutely. It all matters. I could find a transferable skill in anything, especially coaching, you said? Yeah, coaching is, I mean, that's conflict resolution. That's leadership. Yeah, no, that should absolutely be on there. Absolutely, yeah. If it's like a little light, if you think it's a little light, and you're not quite filling out a page, we can connect on. I'll get you to a page. It'll look good.
So
But
again,
well, no, real quick too, why I got you. He keeps calling me Mr. Grugan. I don't know why he's doing that, man. And he knows my father. That's my father's name. I'm James. So if any want to come up and talk to me later, it's James. You don't even have to call me Mr. Grugan. Please don't do that.
my bad. Hey, so like I said, let's give James another round of applause. I do that a lot. You'll find out I do that a whole lot. I got called out many a times for saying the wrong thing, but let's make sure can we push our chairs in and can we try to make it tight as circle as we can up in the front so we can get a group picture with Mr. Grugan. All right. So again, thank you.